Welcome to the conversation. My name is Benjamin Dixon, host of the Benjamin Dixon Show, filling in. And I am pleased to be joined by David Kim. He is a progressive congressional candidate for California's 34th District. He is an immigration attorney, community organizer, and neighborhood council board member. David, how are you today? Thank you so much for joining us.
Hi, Benjamin. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be on here.
The pleasure is ours. We are always excited to speak with progressive candidates. You're running up against the incumbent Jimmy Gomez. This seems to be a very interesting time in electoral politics and politics in general, where there's a clear divide between progressives and the establishment. I would like to know more about your race in general, but if you could kind of cast it in light of the divide that's happening in the Democratic Party between the establishment and progressive insurgents, so to speak.
Yes, for sure, Benjamin. So the incumbent, my opponent, is an established Democrat, a corporately funded one who has over $600,000 in big donors and corporate PAC money. 98.8% of his contributions are from big donors and corporate PACs. And so when we say corporate PACs, we're talking about police unions, private prisons, military-industrial complex, pharmaceutical companies, healthcare companies, developers, and the list goes on. And it's very sad to say, because maybe this type of thing where we had Democratic officials even in our district representing us, maybe if 10 years ago, then it would have been okay. But right now, the times are urgent. People need desperate help. People are suffering right now. And so the people don't want lip service anymore. And that's what our establishment Democratic officials have done. They just continue to do lip service. They preach Medicare for all, but then they take money from pharmaceutical companies and healthcare companies. They preach free education for all, like my opponent, but then he takes money from student debt collectors. And so when the times are tough, when our district is the 10th poorest congressional district in the nation, like our people are tired of just hearing these empty false promises. And so it's now we want change. We want people that are from our communities being elected to office. We don't want career politicians anymore. And my opponent is a career politician who's been in office since 2012. Yet, where are we now with our district?
The 10th poorest in district in the country. That is something, and I've had a chance to look over your platform. So you have almost like the checklist of progressive issues: the Green New Deal, Medicare for all. You oppose the military-industrial complex. You're looking to make cuts in the defense sector, all the way around progressive. Tell me, what more than just the policies? How did you get to those policies? How did you become this progressive?
Well, for me personally, Benjamin, after moving to Los Angeles in 2010, graduating from law school, you would expect my life to be super okay and easy, smooth sailing. But no, I spent 8 to 9 years having the 2 to 3 job daily grind and hustle, trying to make ends meet, working free as an attorney during the day, and then driving for Lyft and Uber from 7 p.m. to 3 a.m. every morning, and then having another job on top of that. And what really kind of hit me was in 2018 when campaigning for this young gentleman in our district for the same congressional seat against the same opponent. What opened the eyes for me was, oh my gosh, life isn't supposed to be this hard for anybody. And I'm supposed to be one of the fortunate few. And I'm thankful for that. But if you look around me in my apartment building, we have multiple families living in 1-bedroom apartments. We have per capita incomes being in the mid-20s in many parts of our district. But then the average rent for a 1-bedroom apartment being over $1,800 a month. And so with that being said, like, we don't need politicians who are going to do little things here and there and say, hey, guys, look, I helped your community. No, we need elected officials who are able to take big, bold stances and policies that really bring change to our people right now, because that's the kind of change we need. So that's how we move towards those policies.
So you come from experience. A lot of Americans have that experience, right? Working multiple jobs just to make ends meet. But there seems to be a disconnect, not only obviously with Republicans and conservatives. That's obvious to anyone who's paying attention, but that disconnect exists inside of the Democratic Party. How are you going to challenge that, being if you win, let's say you get that seat, what is your plan to actually combat that head on when you get to DC?
Yeah, and that's where we really need to look at what is giving us our power, what is empowering us. If I'm not connected or based into my constituency, then what am I doing there? Why am I in DC? And so because our elected officials are legislating in DC aimlessly like balloons with their strings cut off in the air, they have nothing to solidify them, to give them ground. They don't have anything to fight for. And that's what will set apart the progressive wave of freshman elected officials that will be going into Congress, because we're based in our constituencies. We know what we're fighting for. Right. We connect with the suffering. We're being held accountable by our constituency. And so one of the things that I do hope to accomplish, Benjamin, once I get into Congress, is to pass a constituent political accountability bill where our elected officials are required to have a certain system of office hours with their constituents, monthly town halls in different boroughs of their neighborhood districts, being able to implement a system where they're able to hear all of their constituents' concerns and relate to them and connect with them. And so that's very important that we start even on that level of reform.
One of the policies that I saw that you were advocating for is universal basic income. Could you give us an idea of what that looks like from your perspective and how you would implement that?
Yeah, well, UBI is definitely something that was new to a lot of people's ears when Andrew Yang brought it back onto the scene, but it's not anything new. It was something that MLK Jr. was fighting for before he was assassinated. It was something that passed in the House in early 70s, 1970 and 71. But right now, at a time where we're in a 35-plus year wage income stagnation and ever-increasing widening wealth gap, and where the norm is for people to have 2 to 3 jobs to make ends meet, this is not sustainable. We will end up like those Hollywood dystopian movies. And so now is the time that we give a floor to all of our people for them to stand on and for them to breathe. And so just realistically, practically speaking, in our district, with some parts of our neighborhoods having per capita incomes in the low 20s, giving that extra $12,000, and then during a pandemic like this, giving them the extra $2,000 a month would give them so much life and so much moving air to breathe. And so with that being said, it would be funded by VAT. It would be funded by different means. And our government and our media has brainwashed to think, where's the money going to come from? But that's their job. They're the corporate media. They need the money to fund their endless wars. They need their money to fund their corporate interests. And so we as the people need to not get caught up in that.
Real quick, in terms of the UBI, you mentioned the $12,000 a year, $1,000 a month, quite analogous to Andrew Yang's. Do you agree with his aspect of it, where he would cut some of the safety nets in exchange for that UBI? Or are you saying we're going to keep the safety nets and UBI on top of it?
Yes, I don't believe that anybody should have the carpet taken out from under them. I know that my family, we grew up on a lot of safety net and assistance programs. And so it doesn't make sense to then pull that out from under them, because then why implement it in the first place? For example, for those who I know that under the Freedom Dividend, which was the plan that he had advocated for last year, some people wouldn't be able to qualify for SSI. And if they don't, that SSI is what qualifies them to receive other benefits. And that's a big thing. That's very serious, and that's not something that we would want to advocate for at all. Absolutely. So ours is stacking up on top.
Absolutely. I want to ask you kind of a philosophical question in terms of what happens to politicians, progressive politicians, when they get to Washington, D.C. Most of them go with the best of intentions, and most of them go bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, so to speak, but then they become a part of the machine. What is your plan to avoid that with the about 90 seconds that we have left? How do you avoid the trap that so many progressives fall into when they get to D.C.?
Well, that's the thing. A representative, the actual word represent is to manifest the will of the people. That's not what they're doing. So to keep me accountable, we need to have weekly office hours. We already started doing that. You can go to our website, davidkim2020.com, book a constituent hour with me. We need to have monthly town halls. Look at Representative Ocasio-Cortez. She passed with over 70% in her primaries because she is one of the few representatives that have monthly town halls in every different neighborhood borough of her district. And that's how we keep our people accountable, when we're co-governing with them intentionally.
I like that, co-governing with the people to help you be held accountable. David Kim, he is the congressional candidate, progressive candidate for California's 34th district. Thank you so much for joining us today.
2 easy ways to follow the Young Turks. One is hit the subscribe button down below. Then you're a TYT subscriber. And second is ring the bell. And when you do that on YouTube, you're notified of our videos.